All right, let's review the paper that you needed to read for class and for lab. And it's called The Training Principles for Power from the Strength and Conditioning Journal. And so let's just remind ourselves what power is. And so power is equal to force times velocity. All right, so let's figure out how to use that in training. So figure 2 shows us our force velocity curve. The axes are reversed, but it says exactly the same thing. And so for high velocities, you generate low force. And for lower velocities, you have a high force, right? And then when we look at the power curve, which is force times velocity, this tells us that relative to force, you can generate your peak power at kind of mid-range forces, not really low forces and not really high forces. So if we want to look at the power curve relative to our velocity curve, I'm just going to overlay this. And then I'm going to draw a different power curve, kind of using velocity as the relative measure. So I'm going to say force times velocity goes something like this, and this is going to be our power, so this is our peak power here, and our peak power occurs mid velocities, not high velocities and not low velocities. All right, so for figure 6, this is kind of how we're going to approach training. You basically want to move this force velocity curve, I don't want to move that, to the right, right? As you move this to the right, your power will increase. And you can look at previous lectures for that. So either you move your force, right? So this is shifting this bottom part of the curve to the right, or you increase your velocity, which also shifts the curve. But basically, we're looking at this. We want to shift the whole curve to the right. And so we can see here, and let's kind of zoom in on this. I wonder if I can blank the whole screen. Well, we'll just look at this. So if you look in, you can see that low load, high velocity resistance training, right, is going to shift your velocity, as well as increasing sarcomeres in series, however you wish to do that, which eccentric training seems to be a pretty good stimulus. High load, low velocity resistance training increases your force, or you can do moderate load, which kind of hits the middle, and they call that mixed resistance training. But focusing on either or all of these is going to shift this force velocity curve, and this increase your power. So finally, they give you some examples of different types of exercises. So we have low force, high velocity movements down here. I have lower power or the relative power output. And then you have high force, high velocity movements in these exercises. And so basically what you need to come up with is which exercises you would choose to either train the velocity part of the motion or the force part of the power curve to ultimately increase your power.